The lawsuits continue to pile up against Elon Musk's chainsaw approach to cutting the size of the federal government, and some government lawyers are having a hard time in court. As the Wall Street Journal notes, during fast-moving proceedings, DOJ lawyers at times have struggled on questions of law and fact about what Trump and his lieutenants are actually doing, drawing frustration and rebukes from judges across the country. In some cases, lawyers later submitted corrections to what they have told the courts. Joining me now, Barbara McQuade, former U.S. attorney and MSNBC legal analyst. So in court, Barbara, these lawyers apparently are unable to answer some basic questions, or they're providing just wrong answers. Do judges have a lot of patience for that kind of thing?
No, not at all, Chris. I have a lot of sympathy for these lawyers. Lawyers on behalf of the government represent the interests of the United States, regardless of who is president, and they work with agencies to find facts. Now, as officers of the court, they have an obligation to provide accurate, truthful responses to judges. And so they do their best to prepare, but when a judge asks a question, if they don't know the answer, they're supposed to go back and find it. But what it sounds like from this reporting is it's difficult finding the answer to these questions because there is a lack of transparency and because the narrative keeps shifting about how many employees are affected or who's making these decisions. So I feel for these lawyers who are supposed to be in there representing the United States to the best of their ability, and they're being forced to do it with one arm tied behind their back.
I mean, it does sound like there is a deluge of lawsuits. I mean, could this just be, in part at least, just not able to keep up?
Yes, and so at a time when we are seeing this diminishing of federal employees, the deferred resignation program, the rescinding of offers of new Department of Justice lawyers, and even the potential to fire department lawyers who are still in their probationary period. What they really need is more lawyers because of all of the unprecedented actions that Donald Trump is taking with his executive orders. People are filing lawsuits. And who defends those lawsuits? Lawyers from the Department of Justice. And so it's very difficult for them, especially when they're seeing a depletion in their ranks. You know, Chris, when I was in law school, I interned for the Department of Justice. And what caught my eye and intrigued me to do this work was a brochure that said, "Our Nation's Litigators." And it talked about the important role of lawyers for the Department of Justice in acting without fear or favor in upholding the rule of law. The Justice Department here is facing a very difficult challenge when they've got people who will not tell the public the truth about what's really going on and won't even tell their lawyers.
Yeah, you never want to go into court unprepared. I think that statement speaks for itself. Having said that, if you do go in and you can't answer a question, or you make an outright mistake that you have to go back, and we have seen this happen, they go back and they correct it, could that impact a judge's ruling if the case is a close call?
Well, it certainly could. You know, judges are human beings, and human beings get frustrated. And so if they find now, my guess is lawyers are answering questions to the best of their ability, but simply lack the answers. But if they don't know the answers to questions that judges find important, and if they're unable to get answers to those questions that the judges need to make their decisions, I think we can expect them to draw what's known as an adverse inference. That is, I've asked you if X is true, or I've asked you how many or how long or other questions, and you have failed to provide an answer to me. I can only conclude that the answer must be disadvantageous for your side, and I'm going to make an inference favorable to your party opponent. When the Justice Department is representing the interests of the United States, the people of our country, that is not a good development. And so I think lawyers do their best work when they have access to all of the information. And it would certainly behoove all of these agencies and agency heads to be sure they're sharing it with their lawyers.